Hello everyone. Welcome to this session with our one of our very interesting leaders from the education industry that we have today. And thank you for tuning in to College Dunya with us. So today we have with us Sapna Agarwal. She's the head of admissions and outreach at Azim Premji University. And I'll just give you a brief introduction about her first before we begin. So Sapna ma'am has basically done her engineering from REC Allahabad, and after that she went on to do an MBA from IIM Bangalore. And after that she's worked with organizations like Intel and IBM, and then she even worked as the director of global alliances for EMC. Since the last 11 years or so, she's been working as the head of career development services for IIM Bangalore, and post that she's now started working as the head of admissions and outreach for Azim Premji University. So welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Anshin.
Yeah. So,
nice to be here.
It's lovely to have you over here, ma'am, and we're very excited. We know that it will be a very, very insightful kind of a session for the students.
I hope it helps.
Of course, I believe it will. So the first question that I have for you, ma'am, is that being the head of admissions at Azim Premji University, what is the philosophy of your leadership and what kind of leadership style do you follow?
So Anshin, actually the philosophy of the university is to contribute towards just, humane, sustainable and equitable society. Right, and everything around the university sort of works on those principles and that vision. So in my time over here, I've tried to imbibe some of those principles, some of those values in my own style, in my own way of working at the university. To present a just and humane interface to the stakeholders that I work with. And it's actually very important because when you're working at admissions, then you are dealing with young students and their aspirations. To sort of present to them an office and a setup where they feel that we are being just and humane towards them. As well as sort of trying to understand their aspirations, it helps. So that is what I have tried to imbibe in my own personal style at this place.
Okay, so moving on to the second question, ma'am. Being the head of admissions, how do you strategize about the key programs and plans for the marketing and the administration of your university?
Okay. So basically we have two types of programs, the undergraduate programs and the postgraduate programs, right? So which are aimed at different sets of students. And within these, of course, we have, different majors and different specializations, but the two main streams are the undergraduate and postgraduate. They're both equally important to us in terms of what we feed back into the society. Of course, the undergraduate program is for much younger students. They are just out of school, out of 12th standard when they join us. So in that, we are, when we talk about the communication to them about what we have to offer and what our programs are, we also keep the parents in mind. Because at that stage, very often the parents are also a part of the decision making, of the students. And for postgraduate, it's more of talking directly to the students. In fact, we welcome students with a prior work experience in our postgraduate programs. We talk to them accordingly in terms of, what it will mean to sort of come back to education after working for a couple of years, and what it would mean to do a post-graduation in an area like development or in an area like education. For the undergraduate program, it is more about the subject specialization and what after this in terms of, further education or an internship or, so how do they sort of get into life after this degree from the university? So that is what we keep in mind. Of course, we keep sort of, we have, that way it's good that we are not very old. We've been around for just about over 10 years. So we're quite flexible. We sort of, sense what is required, and then we accordingly move up programs. For instance, we have introduced new humanities subjects just last year. History, philosophy, and English. Earlier, we used to offer only BA Humanities, and all of them were clubbed together. So we did that, and then we just took it to the students, and then we got very good response when they applied this year. The exams are still going on for that.
Okay. All right, ma'am. So, moving on to my next question. There's a big difference between the education systems in India and the other countries, the foreign countries. So, they are structured very differently. And in your experience, what do you think that a student who's coming to India from some other country, what they can actually gain from studying in Azim Premji University?
Okay. So, the purpose of education, I guess, elsewhere and in India would be the same. It would be to enable the students to sort of face the life better, to get employed if they're looking for that, and to sort of structure a life for themselves. In India, it appears different because of the volume. Whatever you offer, the number of students that are going through the program, and the number of students who are aspiring to get into the program is always very, very large. So at some extent, and a lot of us have seen that when we were studying ourselves, that the choice element, is sort of compromised. Not all students are always able to get a particular discipline or a particular area that they want to specialize in, because the competition is tough, the seats are limited, all of that. So that is one difference. The other is that, the flexibility in the education system itself in terms of even the starting your session at a different time in the year, and things. Other flexibilities are not there in India. It's very, very straight-jacketed. You start at a time, finish at a time. There is no mid-year admissions. You cannot break up the terms and semesters and do part credits now and part credits later. It's all very, very straight-jacketed. So, in some of the other places which are slightly more evolved, they do that. Even in terms of the age of the students getting into, there is no limited age of people getting into an undergraduate program, but here we have those as well. Having said that, the programs in India and at Azim Premji University are much more evolved in terms of what they teach. They are much more, I guess, much more rooted in knowledge, much more much more thoroughly prepared. They actually tend to put in a lot more learning material and a lot more learning stuff in the 3 years that the students are with us. So to that extent, the students who are joining the Azim Premji University will definitely have a much richer learning experience when they are here. And at Azim Premji University, as part of a common curriculum, we also have a module on understanding India, which is basically, sort of talks about, it has courses, and these are not like extracurricular courses. These are proper courses that talk about the diversity in India, the our environment, the environment in which we live in, and then a critical appreciation of that, of our own policies, of our own living conditions, etc. And that is very, very enlightening, even for our own Indian students and students who come from abroad. It will definitely be an eye-opener if they work with us and if they study with us.
That's it's a very, very interesting point. A couple of points that you highlighted over here, and specifically the flexibility of education, that I think it's very, very important right now. And that is something that brings inclusivity as well, because I've seen that when we look at other, specifically the developed nations, most of the inclusivity of their education comes from this flexibility part, where they have this option of, splitting up their credits and stopping in between. Let's say they've done their degree for 2 years, they can complete the remaining 1 year later on as well. And all of this kind of flexibility is very, very important to help the students get back to education specifically for those who are going through difficult circumstances in life. So that's a very interesting point that you've highlighted, and I appreciate that a lot. And again, the second thing where you said that understanding India, that's again very, very important. And I see how Azim Premji University would be making the foreign students specifically very much interested in the culture and the overall history of India. Okay, so I'll move towards the next question that we have over here, ma'am. And that is that how does the curriculum of Azim Premji University ensure the best practices in the industry?
Okay, so again, we will have to, these questions, I guess, have to be answered differently for the undergraduate courses and the postgraduate courses. So our undergraduate course is actually very, very interestingly designed, right? So the student has to choose one major, either out of the humanities stream or the science stream, or we have mathematics as well as we have economics. Right, so they choose one of those, a history or a philosophy, economics or a physics in the sciences, and then we have something called the common curriculum, right, which is a very, very significant part of our undergraduate program, right? It is almost half of the program, right? Not exactly half, but it's like pretty much close to that. And the common curriculum has to be taken by all that is taught to all the students, irrespective of the major they're taking. And that includes, the common curriculum actually includes four basic components. One is the foundation courses, things like critical thinking, things like logical reasoning, verbal communication, written communication, right? So those are the foundation courses that set a student to become a grown-up individual, right? To think about issues, to be able to argue, to be able to write well, right? So those are the foundation courses. Then we have something called interdisciplinary studies, right? So, there are, students basically at the undergraduate level have not yet decided what they want to specialize in ultimately. So we give them a flavor of, sort of a few of the areas in which they could specialize. So we have development, education, media and democracy, and we have the sustainability module, right? So out of these they can choose. They don't have to necessarily do all of them. We give them a taste of everything, but they can choose, right? Then we also have creative expressions, right, in which we teach them things like art, music, sports, drama, right? Because we believe that these are not stuff to be done only outside the classroom in the play field. This is actually a part of learning through life, right? So this is each of them teaches you something: teamwork, expressing yourself, expressing your emotions, all of that, right? And then we have already talked about understanding India. So that's also a module which is part of the common curriculum. We all of this put together makes the student, and together with the special knowledge, the in-depth knowledge that they gain from their choice of major, together in 3 years, it makes a very, very balanced individual who can actually make the next decision of whether they want to work, whether they want to study more, whether they want to take a break and then come for studying. So the options students are many, and the decision will be theirs rather than entering a cookie cutter sort of a rat race saying, oh, after a BSc Physics, I must do an MSc Physics, right? So it's not like that. Actually, after a BSc Physics, somebody can do an MA development. So that is the type of diversity in studying that we have.
Very interesting, ma'am. I mean, learning through life and becoming balanced individuals by the time they pass out of the university. That's very, very nice. And so I'll move on to our next question, which is that any insights on how your university is more welcoming towards the students of different races and different economic backgrounds?
Okay, so on the socio-economic background, we have a stated policy of being inclusive, So as you know, the Azim Premji University is basically philanthropic in nature. It's fully philanthropic. It's not for profit. It is part of the Azim Premji Foundation, and so the entire university is designed to be inclusive. With a special attention to the students who come from socioeconomically disadvantaged backgrounds, right? The basic one-line principle is that anybody who deserves higher education should not be deprived of it just because they cannot afford it, right? So 60% of our students actually get financial assistance at the university. Right, and so we do not have actually merit-based scholarships. We just have financial assistance. Anybody who needs it, and this is based on the family income. So anybody who needs it, who cannot afford education, who cannot afford to pay the fee, just he or she gets it. So that is on the socioeconomic disadvantaged background. It's like very, very inclusive. Everybody is welcome. And in terms of diversity, India itself is a very diverse country. So we get students from 27 different states studying at our university. In the short span that we've been around, we have that much of diversity in the thing. In terms of foreign students, we are open. We are open to the medium of instruction is English. Although we do get students from within India who find it a challenge. And so we have rich courses for them for language as well as for quantitative ability, right? And students from outside India, they're welcome to come in and study. We haven't perhaps gone out of our way to get them in, partly because we are still new and new. I mean, we've been there for 10 years, so we people are getting to know about us, and once they come in, they will realize how well we are. Our curriculum is very, very world class in terms of after doing the course, if they go to any other university in India or outside India, it will just blend in. So there wouldn't be this need to do anything extra to get into university. In fact, a lot of our students go abroad to study after their graduation from here.
All right. So I'll move on to the next question, ma'am. So the next is that why do you think what do you think should be the university's priority in the next 10 years? Because you've been around for the last 10 years and you've achieved a lot with that. So what do you think should be the priority for the next upcoming 10 years?
Okay, so one of the things that we are aiming at is growth. So currently we have around, say, 800 students. We're talking about growing to, say, 5,000 students over the next 8 to 10 years, right? We perhaps even a larger set. We will perhaps have more campuses. Currently our campus is in Bangalore. We're looking at having a couple more campuses and increasing the intake in the Bangalore campus as well as the new campuses. What follow is basically also increasing the number of programs we have to offer. Currently, it was a conscious decision to start with a set of programs that we are offering. So we will perhaps introduce new subjects, like say in humanities. Currently, we have English, philosophy, and history. Moving forward, we may have a couple more subjects. Similarly, in say postgraduate, we have MA in development and education, or in law. And in public policy, we might perhaps introduce a couple more subjects. So I guess the plan is in terms of growth that is there. The vision, I guess we've sort of, we're going to stick with that in terms of a just, humane, equitable and sustainable society. The idea is to feed back to the society a set of individuals who can contribute, who are socially conscious and who can contribute to society.
So I can totally understand that, ma'am, because the way you're a totally philanthropic kind of university, with that, these values totally fall in line, and they are, these values are something that most of our education sector players need to understand, and with that, that's the only way to, create a just and a fair kind of a society in India. So that's very, very, very great. So I'll move on to the next question, which is that what do you think? Something that people do not know about your university and you would like them to know. Is there something like that?
Okay, so what is interesting about the university is that we are sort of, preparing them for life. So our university is fully residential. So the students do not have an option of staying outside the campus. And that is because we realize that, at this stage, education is not merely like a 9 to 4 or a 9 to 6 sort of curriculum. It is the entire day. So it's residential. We have faculty mentors, who stay with the students. So the students are not like left on their own for the time of the classroom hours, right? So they are constantly engaged in activities with resident mentors who are specialists in different areas. So there are, like I mentioned, creative expression, but there are other activities also, in terms of sports and other extracurricular activities that they are engaged in. So that is one. The other thing is that I've already mentioned the social impact that we're trying to have through our students, through the education that we impart, and the consciousness that we bring in terms of there being socially and economically disadvantaged people. So a cohort that we take in is representative of that. Like I said, 60% of our students get financial aid, and even those who don't are actually the fee are actually getting some aid or the other, because the fee is designed in a way that everybody can afford it, right? Because the fee is not a revenue model for us, right? We do not depend on this fee at all, unlike some of the other universities who will have to. So that is another thing that the students need to know. And the third thing is that we have a very nurturing environment within the university. So when we take in the students, it's almost like we adopt them. So they are there with us for 3 years. We are responsible for their well-being, not only in terms of education, but overall growth, their aspirations. The student-teacher ratio is sort of unheard of. We have 150 faculty members for the small set of students that I mentioned earlier, right? There is constant faculty mentoring for students who need it. And in fact, a lot of students, even after passing out, keep coming back. They are in touch with us. They keep coming back for more assistance, for more guidance from the faculty members. So that, I don't think they would get that type of ratio they would get anywhere else. Right. So yes, those are the things that students need to know about it.
All right. So my next question is that, ma'am, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges for higher education in general and Azim Premji University specifically?
So I guess the biggest challenge for the students these days is the choice available. So they are basically spoiled for choice. There are new courses being introduced, new combinations being introduced every year by different universities. They have the option of taking one humanities course and one science course, and sort of specializing in something, thinking they're specializing in that, but actually they're not. So I guess the confusion is there in the students' mind. So while it's good that they have choice, it's also very, very sort of stressing for them, very traumatic for them to decide what to do. That is one challenge for them. The second, of course, is affordability in terms of some of the higher education institutions are becoming very expensive. So the students end up taking loans, and then the first priority for them is to get a very high-paying job so that they can start repaying their loans. Right, so that sort of becomes a cycle, and then learning takes a backseat because they have to it's just like treadmill that they get on, and then they have to keep running just to keep up. And so I think those are the challenges that the students are facing. But the education institutions have to work towards that they sort of reduce these challenges for the students. They have to give them a more learning atmosphere, a more sort of inclusive sort of a place where they can really learn something. They can, and which they can then go back and give back to the society. And I think Azim Premji University is trying in its own way to help students do that. We try and take away the anxiety from the students, and we tell them that there's enough time. You take your time to learn, and then we will decide what you will do after that. Rather than from second year onward, it's like, okay, where will I get placed, and what will I do after this? How much money will I get? Stuff like that. Especially, I'm talking more of the Indian context. That is the reality we see around us.
So, affordability and trying to avoid the rat race, along with choices and confusion as the other problems. Very nicely put, ma'am. So, I'll like to move towards our last question in this series now. And my final question is that, do you have any suggestions that you would like to give to the current youth and the aspiring students of your university as well?
So, yeah, I would like to tell the students that the challenges they face are real. There is competition, and because of competition, there is hostility. Students themselves don't share information and knowledge with each other. There is always this thing about getting past the other, getting the best seat and the best college, and those challenges are real. The same thing would happen when they enter the job market. The stakes are very high. And they have to sort of, sometimes it's just a potluck sort of a thing, saying, am I lucky, did I get the job? It was a bad day, I didn't get the job, I got 2 lakhs less, and things like that. Those are, however, given that, so we are not able to take away those challenges immediately. That's a part of the society that we are all part of, right? But what they should do is, they should still not lose track of what is within them. In terms of, if they have a passion, if they have a liking for something, they have to follow that, right? Regardless of, whether it is useful or not in the future. A lot of science students, for instance, IT, do not pursue pure sciences just because they think, engineering is better. But they should not do that. They should pursue a subject of their choice. And these days, the options are so many in the job market also, and in specialization, that it will come to. And this other thing is that they should constantly try to improve their basic learning skills, right? Because life is a continuous learning journey, so they have to continuously read a lot, write if possible, have their own blogs, because it's really, really important to be able to communicate your feelings, communicate your ideas, and students, as the earlier they start that, the better it is, right? So they should read a lot, is what I would tell.
Okay, that was really great, ma'am. I mean, the things that you told, most of them were very insightful and informative. A lot of things, very interesting things that even I got to know about Azim Premji University, which I probably did not know before this session. And that speaks in itself. I mean, of course, the students will get to know a lot about Azim Premji University in particular, and in general about how education is and what things they should try to pursue for their future, and how they should, have a kind of a take towards life in general. So it's very, very nice and very informative, ma'am. So thank you for taking out the time for giving us all this information and having this session with us. And I really wish you all the best for the future. And of course, I wish you have a very safe and secure kind of a time with your family, and not just you, but your entire family and all the people at Azim Premji University. I hope they're all safe and they stay safe in this time of COVID.
Thank you, Anshul. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Those wishes mean a lot.
Most welcome.
Thank you.